The Millionaire's Secret, a waitress, a broken promise, and the child who changed everything. Fire. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave your comments below. Your support means the world. Part 1. The First Smile. Look, Leo, look what I have for you, Stella exclaimed with a warm smile, holding out a small mouse-shaped toy to the timid child who stared at her with wide, hesitant eyes. The little boy with light brown hair watched, fascinated, as the toy danced between the waitress's nimble fingers. From a nearby table, Ethan Hayes observed the scene with a mix of surprise and something he couldn't quite identify. It had been months since he'd seen his son smile like that, and now this unknown waitress had managed in minutes what he hadn't achieved in weeks. "It's incredible," he murmured to himself, unable to tear his gaze away from his son, who was now openly laughing as Stella made the little mouse dance in front of him. But Ethan hadn't always been this quiet, somber man. There was a time when his laughter filled rooms, when Sarah was alive and the world seemed perfect. The rain fell relentlessly that gray day, as if the sky itself wept for the loss of Sarah Millerhayes. Ethan, dressed entirely in black, held his barely 2-year-old son in his arms as the coffin slowly descended. "I swear to you, Sarah," he whispered, his voice broken, "I will never love anyone else. I will dedicate my life to our son." Eleanor, his mother-in-law, approached to take the child. "Come on, Ethan, Leo needs to rest." "I'll take care of him," he replied dryly, clutching his son to his chest. "Ethan, you can't do this alone," Eleanor insisted with genuine concern. Sarah would have wanted to be here raising her son," he interrupted harshly. "But she's not here anymore, and I will keep the promise I made to her before she left. Leo and I will be fine on our own." Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years. The Hayes mansion in Aspen, once filled with laughter and music, now remained in an almost sepulchral silence. Ethan had completely immersed himself in his work as a real estate magnate and in raising Leo, who was now 5 years old. A quiet child, too serious for his age, who barely smiled. Eleanor visited frequently, bringing gifts for her grandson and constantly reminding him of who his mother had been. "Look, Leo," she would say, showing him photos. "Your mom had your same smile, though you hardly ever show it." "Leave him alone, Eleanor," Ethan interrupted every time. "Don't pressure him." One May evening, Ethan returned home earlier than usual. He found Leo sitting on the floor of his room, drawing in silence. "How was your day, champ?" he asked, loosening his tie. Leo barely looked up. "Good." Ethan approached to see the drawing. 3 figures. A tall man, a small boy, and a woman with wings. "Who are they?" he asked, a lump in his throat, though he already knew the answer. "You, me, and Mommy in heaven," Leo replied naturally. Ethan sat on the bed, feeling the weight of his promise like never before. "Are you hungry? We can order something special for dinner." "I don't want the usual food," Leo murmured, surprising his father. "Then what do you want?" "Something different." That same night, Ethan received a call that would change everything. The economic crisis had hit his investments. His flagship project, a luxury resort on the coast, was in jeopardy. "Investors are pulling out, Mr. Hayes," his assistant explained. "We'll have to cut expenses immediately." "Do what's necessary," Ethan replied, thinking of Leo and the promise he had to keep above all else. While driving through a neighborhood he normally didn't frequent, looking for a different place for dinner, as his son had asked, he passed a small restaurant called the Willow Tree Diner. Through the windows, he saw families laughing, children playing, a warm atmosphere he hadn't experienced in a long time. "Want to try that place?" he asked Leo, who was looking curiously from the back seat. The child nodded slightly. What neither of them knew was that, upon crossing that door, the promise Ethan had made at Sarah's grave was about to waver. Because behind the counter, a waitress with an easy smile and a warm heart was about to do what no one had achieved in 3 years. Make little Leo laugh as if nothing else in the world mattered. Part 2. A diner, a fallen light, and a heroic act. Stella finished making the toy mouse dance in front of Leo and smiled, seeing that the child had lost his initial shyness. "Do you like this little mouse?" she asked. "Its name is Cheese," she added in a melodious voice. Leo nodded, extending his little hands to touch it. "If you eat all your food, Cheese can stay with you a little longer," Stella offered with a wink. Ethan watched the scene in amazement from his seat. This was not the luxurious restaurant he was accustomed to. The walls of the Willow Tree Diner were painted a faded turquoise blue and decorated with vinyl records and old photographs. The formica tables and mismatched chairs gave it a quirky charm, but everything was impeccably clean. "Will you be ordering anything else, sir?" Stella asked, approaching his table while Leo played with the toy mouse. "No, thank you," Ethan replied, noticing her honey-colored eyes for the first time. "My son never... Well, it's rare to see him so happy." Stella smiled. "Kids know when someone truly cares about them. You don't have to do much, just listen to them." Before Ethan could respond, a dull thud echoed above them. Both looked up just as the ceiling lamp detached, falling directly towards where Leo was sitting. "Look out!" Stella screamed, throwing herself over the child, covering him with her body. The lamp crashed inches from them, scattering glass across the floor. "Leo!" Ethan rushed towards them, his heart pounding wildly. "We're fine," Stella said, carefully getting up as she checked on the child. "Right, champ?" Leo nodded, surprisingly calm in Stella's arms. "My God, is everyone all right?" An older man rushed out of the kitchen, pale as a ghost. "I'm so sorry. I reported that lamp to Mr. Thompson weeks ago." "Thompson?" Ethan asked, still agitated. "The owner," the man explained. "Or rather, the self-proclaimed owner now." Stella quickly intervened. "Robert, please." "It's the truth, Stella. Ever since Mrs. Willow passed, that man has only been squeezing the business dry without investing a dime." Ethan looked at Stella with curiosity as she carried Leo to another table, away from the mess. "I'm so sorry about all this," she said, avoiding his gaze. "Dinner's on the house." "I don't care about dinner," Ethan responded. "You threw yourself to protect my son without a second thought. How can I thank you?" "Anyone would have done the same," she replied, downplaying it as she wiped a small scratch on her arm. "Not just anyone," Ethan said seriously. He turned to Robert. "What did you mean about Thompson being the self-proclaimed owner?" Robert opened his mouth, but Stella interrupted him. "It's a long story, sir." "Hayes. Ethan Hayes." Stella's eyes widened in surprise. "The Hayes developments?" Ethan nodded, a little uncomfortable. "That's me." "Wow," Stella murmured. "I never thought someone like you would come to a place like this." "Someone like me? You know, with your money, you could be in any fancy restaurant." "My son wanted something different," Ethan explained, watching Leo continue to play with the little mouse, oblivious to the chaos. That night, after returning home, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about the waitress and how she had protected Leo. For the first time in 3 years, his son had fallen asleep with a smile on his face, hugging the little mouse Stella had insisted he take. "It was an interesting night, wasn't it?" he commented to Leo as he tucked him in. "Maybe we could go back tomorrow." "Yes," the child responded with enthusiasm. "I want to see Stella again." Ethan froze, hearing his son name the waitress. Leo rarely showed so much interest in anyone new. The next day, Ethan called his assistant. "I need information about a restaurant called the Willow Tree Diner and its legal situation." To his surprise, the information came back quickly. The restaurant was in serious trouble. The original owner, Carmen Willow, had passed away 2 years ago, leaving the business to her daughter Stella, but a loan shark named Thompson had taken advantage of the confusing legal situation to gain operational control. Part 3. A secret revealed and a hand extended. That afternoon, Ethan returned to the restaurant alone. He found Stella cleaning tables after lunch. "Mr. Hayes," she said, surprised. "And little Leo?" "At school. I came for another reason," Ethan explained. "I want to talk about what happened yesterday and about the true owner of this place. Stella's expression hardened. I don't know what they might have told you, but I know this restaurant belonged to your mother, Ethan interrupted her, and that legally it should be yours. Stella looked nervously around before whispering, Not here, please. She led him to a small back office where the walls were covered with photos of a smiling woman who looked very much like Stella. My mother, she explained with nostalgia. Carmen Willow. This place was everything to her. What happened? Ethan asked with genuine interest. Cancer. It was fast and we weren't prepared. Medical expenses piled up, and she had to take out a loan from a local lender named Simon Blackwood. When she died, I was in my final year of my education degree, and my sister Lily was just starting university. I couldn't finish my studies to take care of the restaurant, but it turns out the loan had fine print my mother never understood. And this Thompson works for Blackwood, Ethan guessed. Stella nodded. He's Blackwood's nephew. He says that until we pay the loan in full, the restaurant is practically his. My mother left everything in order, but I don't have the money to fight it legally. Does your sister know about this? No, Stella confessed. She thinks Mom left an insurance policy that pays for her studies. I don't want her to drop out of university to come help me. Ethan contemplated the young woman in front of him. Despite her problems, she had risked her safety to protect a child she barely knew. Without a second thought, he heard himself saying, Let me help you. Why would you do that? She asked, suspicious. Because my son smiled yesterday for the first time in months, he replied with sincerity. And because I have the resources to deal with people like Blackwood. Stella looked him in the eyes, evaluating his proposal. I don't need charity, Mr. Hayes. It's not charity, he explained. It's a thank you for protecting my son, and if I'm honest, I could use a project that's closer to the community. My investors are nervous about the economic crisis. After a long silence, Stella extended her hand. I accept your help, but on one condition. When everything is resolved, I will pay you back every last penny. Ethan took her hand, feeling a warmth he had forgotten existed. Deal. And now we can talk about that ceiling lamp and what other things urgently need repair. Part 4: Renovations, Relationships, and Rising Tensions. The following weeks transformed the Willow Tree Diner. Ethan, true to his word, organized a team of workers who repaired the leaky roof, renewed the electrical installation, and painted the walls. The original turquoise blue remained, but now it looked fresh and inviting. Daddy, look! Leo exclaimed, running between the newly varnished tables. Everything sparkles. It was Saturday morning, and Ethan had brought his son to see the progress. What started as an occasional visit had become a daily routine. Leo insisted on stopping by the restaurant after school, and Ethan could no longer, nor did he want to, refuse. It's looking good, right? Ethan asked Stella, who was placing fresh flowers on each table. It's like a dream, she confessed softly. My mother would be so happy to see this. From the corner, Robert watched the scene with a mischievous smile. Mrs. Willow would be delighted to see more than just the remodel, he murmured to himself. Will you come tomorrow too? Leo asked Stella, gently tugging her apron. Of course, little one. I work every day, she replied, crouching down to his height. But tomorrow's Sunday, the child retorted with crushing logic. Sunday is our busiest day, with family breakfasts, Stella explained. Then we'll come for breakfast, Leo declared, looking at his father expectantly. Ethan found himself nodding before thinking. I suppose we can do that. Yes, Leo celebrated, hugging Stella's legs. That night, upon arriving at his mansion, Ethan found Eleanor waiting in the living room. Her expression was a mix of concern and reproach. Where were you two? I've been waiting for hours, she complained as she hugged Leo. At the restaurant, Grandma, the child responded enthusiastically. I was helping Stella put flowers on the tables. Eleanor looked at Ethan with a raised eyebrow. Stella? Who is Stella? A friend, Leo intervened before Ethan could answer. She gave me cheese. Eleanor looked increasingly confused. His stuffed mouse, Ethan explained. Leo, why don't you go wash your hands for dinner? When the child left, Eleanor crossed her arms. Can you explain who this Stella is? Giving toys to my grandson? She's the owner of a restaurant I'm helping to remodel, Ethan replied, trying to sound casual. Leo has grown fond of her. A restaurant? You remodeling a restaurant? Eleanor let out an incredulous laugh. Ethan, you're a luxury real estate developer, not a neighborhood contractor. It's a small project, something different from what I usually do, he explained, irritated by her condescending tone. I see what's happening, Eleanor said, her voice cutting. It's only been 3 years since my daughter died, and you're already looking to replace her. That's not fair, Eleanor. Ethan raised his voice but immediately controlled himself. What I do or don't do with my life has nothing to do with what I felt for Sarah. Felt? You're already speaking in the past tense. Eleanor put a hand to her chest, offended. What happened to your promise never to love anyone else? Ethan looked at her steadily. I'm helping someone who protected Leo from an accident. I'm not breaking any promises. Your son needs stability, not waitresses playing mother, Eleanor stated. My son needs to smile once in a while, Ethan replied firmly. And if spending time at that restaurant makes him happy, we'll keep going. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. The restaurant's renovation progressed, and with it, the relationship between Ethan, Stella, and Leo grew. The child had blossomed. He now talked more, laughed frequently, and had even started making friends at school. One afternoon, while Leo drew at a back table, Ethan and Stella reviewed invoices in the office. Sales have increased 30% since the remodel, she commented, surprised by the numbers. People recognize quality, Ethan responded, satisfied. And your food was always excellent. My mother's recipe, Stella confessed nostalgically. She used to say food should taste like home. Ethan observed her with curiosity. You've never told me how you ended up managing this place instead of being a teacher. Stella sighed, putting the papers aside. I was in my final year of university when Mom got sick. I decided to pause my studies to take care of her. Lily had just started university. Someone had to sacrifice, and it wasn't going to be her. You could resume your studies now, Ethan suggested. Maybe someday, she replied with a sad smile. Right now, keeping my mother's legacy alive is my priority. Stella's phone interrupted the conversation. Her expression lit up when she saw the name on the screen. Lily, how are you, little sis? She answered enthusiastically. As she listened, her smile faded. An internship in Spain? That's wonderful. Ethan watched Stella struggle to maintain a cheerful tone as she talked to her sister about the additional costs that opportunity abroad would entail. Don't worry about the money, he heard her say. Mom's insurance covers more than we thought. You just focus on taking advantage of that opportunity. When she hung up, her eyes were bright with unshed tears. Problems? Ethan asked softly. Not exactly, she replied, forcing a smile. My sister has the opportunity to do an internship in Madrid. It's an incredible thing for her career, but she needs money you don't have, he finished. Stella nodded, looking towards where Leo was drawing quietly. I'll do whatever it takes for her to have what I couldn't. Before Ethan could respond, the restaurant door burst open. A man in an expensive but ill-fitting suit entered, followed by 2 burly types. Stella, my dear, how's my favorite investment? He exclaimed with false joviality. Stella's face paled. Simon, today isn't payday. I know, the man responded, inspecting the improvements to the place. But I heard about the renovations, and I wanted to see for myself how you're spending my money. Ethan instinctively stood up, placing himself beside Stella. Can I help you with something? Simon Blackwood looked him up and down, sizing him up. And you are? A friend, Ethan replied dryly. Well, Simon smiled maliciously. Looks like you found a resourceful friend, Stella. I hope that means I'll see my money in full soon. We're working on it, she replied with dignity. I hope so, Simon warned, stepping closer to her. Because the interest keeps accruing, and it would be a shame if your sister had to abandon her studies to come scrub dishes here. Ethan stepped forward. I think your visit is over. Simon looked at him steadily before smiling. Of course, I just came to remind Stella of our agreement. He headed for the door, but before leaving, he added, by the way, congratulations on the improvements. They'll make the restaurant worth more when I finally have to sell it. When the door closed behind him, Stella sank into a chair, trembling slightly. How much do you really owe him? Ethan asked. Too much, she replied in a whisper. And with the interest he invents, I'll never finish paying. Ethan took her hand, surprising her and himself with the gesture. You're not alone in this, Stella. We'll solve it together. At that moment, Leo approached with a drawing in his hand. It showed 3 figures, a man, a child, and a woman. Unlike the previous drawing, this time none of them had wings. All 3 were smiling, holding hands in front of what appeared to be the Willow Tree Diner. Part 5, The Birthday Invitation and Lingering Doubts. 6 months had passed since that first encounter at the restaurant. The Willow Tree Diner looked unrecognizable. Freshly painted walls, new tables, a luminous sign at the entrance, and a clientele that grew day by day. We're going to need more wait staff if we keep this up, Robert commented while drying glasses behind the counter. It was Friday night, and the place was packed. Stella moved gracefully between the tables, greeting customers by name. Many were now coming for the 3rd or 4th time. From a corner table, Ethan watched her while Leo quietly colored beside him. Dad, can we live closer to the restaurant? The child suddenly asked. Why do you want that, champ? To see Stella every day. He responded with the simple logic of his 5 years. She makes me laugh. Ethan smiled. We already see her almost every day. But you work a lot, Leo insisted. And when we're not here, you get serious again. His son's innocent words made him thoughtful. It was true, something had changed in him. His employees had noticed, commenting that he no longer seemed as strict in meetings. Even his assistant had been surprised to see him smile during a difficult call with investors. Can Stella come to my birthday party? Leo continued. What birthday party? Ethan asked, confused. The one I'm going to have, the child replied obviously. I'm turning 6 soon. Ethan realized with embarrassment that he had been so busy, he had barely thought about his son's birthday. Of course she can come. If she wants to. Yes, Leo celebrated, jumping up. I'm going to invite her right now. Before Ethan could stop him, Leo ran towards Stella, who had just finished serving a table. He watched her bend down to listen to the child, and then look in his direction with a surprised expression. Your son just invited me to his birthday party, Stella commented when she approached his table. He says there will be chocolate cake and clowns. Apparently so, Ethan replied with a smile. Though it's the first I'm hearing about the clowns. You don't have to invite me out of politeness, she said in a low voice. I understand it's a family thing. Leo wants you there, Ethan replied sincerely. And so do I. A faint blush appeared on Stella's cheeks. Then I'd love to go. The doorbell rang, interrupting the moment. A young woman who was almost identical to Stella, but with shorter hair and a more youthful air, entered carrying a suitcase. Lily, Stella exclaimed, running to hug the newcomer. Why didn't you tell me you were coming? I wanted to surprise you, the young woman replied, looking around in awe. Wow, the place looks incredible. When did you do all this? It's a long story, Stella responded, taking the suitcase. Come, I'll introduce you to some friends. The introductions were brief but cordial. Lily had the same warmth as her sister, but with a mischievous touch that made her seem always on the verge of a joke. Ah, so you're the famous Mr. Hayes, Lily commented as she shook Ethan's hand. My sister talks a lot about you. Oh, really? Ethan asked, looking at Stella, who seemed to want the ground to swallow her. Lily, Stella murmured. Please, Mr. Hayes is an important client. Client? Lily raised an eyebrow. From how you described him, I thought. Leo, why don't you show Lily your drawings? Stella interrupted desperately. The rest of the night passed with laughter and conversations. Lily talked about university and her plans for the internship in Madrid, while Leo captivated her with stories about his school and his daily visits to the restaurant. Later, when Leo finally fell asleep in one of the booths and Lily helped Robert close up, Ethan and Stella found themselves alone in the small back office. Your sister is charming, he commented. And completely indiscreet, Stella replied with an embarrassed smile. What exactly have you told her about me? Ethan asked, moving a little closer. Only what's necessary, she replied, nervously playing with a strand of hair. That you've helped me a lot with the restaurant. That Leo is a wonderful child. And what else? Stella looked him in the eyes. That I've never met anyone like you. The silence that followed was charged with possibilities. They were so close that Ethan could distinguish the tiny golden flecks in Stella's honey-colored eyes. For an instant, the promise made at Sarah's grave seemed to recede in his memory. Tomorrow's the festival, Lily exclaimed, entering abruptly and breaking the moment. She stopped when she saw the scene. Oh, I'm sorry, am I interrupting something? No, both replied in unison, quickly separating. What festival? Ethan asked, trying to change the subject. The spring festival, Lily explained. It's a tradition in the neighborhood. There will be music, dancing, food. You should come. Stella makes the best tamales in town for the festival. Sounds fun, Ethan responded. Leo would love it. The next day, the festival transformed the streets near the restaurant. Food stalls, crafts, and games filled every corner. Leo ran back and forth, fascinated by the colors and music. I've never seen anything like this, Ethan exclaimed, surprised by the joy that emanated from the place. It's the magic of the neighborhoods, Stella replied, serving tamales from the Willow Tree Diner's stall. People who have less sometimes know how to celebrate more. The afternoon advanced with laughter and music. Lily took Leo to play, leaving Ethan and Stella alone for moments. Dance with me, Ethan proposed when a slow song began to play on the small stage where a local band was performing. I don't know if that's a good idea, Stella hesitated. People will talk. Let them talk, he replied, taking her hand. For once, I don't care what others think. On the impromptu dance floor, under the colorful lights decorating the street, Ethan held Stella close as they moved to the rhythm of the music. For the first time in years, he felt that tingling in his stomach he thought he had forgotten. I never thought I'd be like this with you, Stella confessed softly. Like this how? Dancing in the middle of the street, with the whole neighborhood watching us, she replied with a shy smile. It wouldn't have occurred to me either, Ethan admitted. But I'm glad it's happening. Their faces slowly drew closer. They were about to kiss when a grave voice interrupted them. How touching! The Waitress and the Millionaire, just like in the telenovelas. Simon Blackwood stood a few steps away, wearing an ostentatious suit and a cruel smile. The dancing stopped around them. This is neither the place nor the time, Blackwood, Ethan warned, placing himself protectively in front of Stella. On the contrary, it's the perfect time to remind my dear Stella that she has a pending payment, Simon replied, raising his voice so everyone could hear. One that she's been avoiding while spending my money on renovations and apparently on winning over rich men. Stella paled. That's not true, and you know it. No? Why don't you tell your new friend about us? Darling, Simon continued maliciously. About our engagement and how you broke it when it no longer suited you. Ethan looked at Stella, confused. What's he talking about? Nothing important, she replied, her voice trembling. Simon let out a laugh. Nothing important. I lent her mother money when no one else would. As collateral, Carmen promised her daughter would marry me. A deal Stella decided to break when her mother died. That's a lie, Stella exclaimed, tears in her eyes. My mother would never do something like that. I have papers that say otherwise, darling, Simon responded, pulling an envelope from his jacket. And since you seem to have found a new patron, Perhaps it's time for Mr. Hayes to know what kind of woman you really are. Before Stella could respond, Lily appeared with Leo, oblivious to the attention. Stella! Leo won a prize at the target practice and he stopped when he saw the tears in his sister's eyes. What's happening? Simon took advantage of the confusion to approach Ethan and murmur. If I were you, I'd investigate carefully who you're involving your son with. Stella has a special talent for charming men with resources, until she gets what she wants. With those words, Simon walked away through the crowd, leaving a trail of whispers in his wake. Stella, what was all that? Ethan asked, bewildered. Not now, she replied, wiping her tears and forcing a smile for Leo. I'll explain later, I promise. But the magic of the night had been broken, and with it, the bubble they had created in those months together. Part 6. Doubt, Despair, and a Glimmer of Hope. The Monday after the festival, Ethan didn't show up at the restaurant, nor on Tuesday, nor Wednesday. By Thursday, Stella had lost hope of ever seeing him again. You should call him, Lily suggested as they cleaned up after closing. And tell him what? Stella replied, rubbing a stain on the counter harder than necessary. Simon ruined everything with his lies. That's why you should explain the truth, Lily insisted. If he truly cares about you, he'll listen. He doesn't care, Stella murmured. He cared about his son, and the restaurant was a project to distract himself. I was just convenient. You know that's not true, Lily responded softly. I saw how he looked at you during the festival. Well, he's not looking at me anyway now, Stella concluded bitterly. And it's better that way. People like us don't belong in his world, Lily. Eventually, they remember who they are. Friday morning, as Stella prepared the tables for breakfast, the doorbell rang. She turned with the hope of seeing Ethan, but instead found the small figure of Leo, followed by an older woman she didn't know. Stella! The child exclaimed, running towards her. Leo! Stella knelt to receive him in a hug. What are you doing here so early? Where's your dad? Dad's working, Leo responded. I escaped from Mrs. Jenkins to come see you. The woman accompanying him approached, visibly agitated. I'm so sorry, miss. The child ran off when we got out of the car, and I couldn't catch him. I'm Mrs. Jenkins, his new nanny. New nanny, Stella repeated, feeling a knot in her stomach. Yes, Mr. Hayes hired me 3 days ago, Mrs. Jenkins explained. I must take Leo back right now. His grandma and Miss Olivia are waiting to take him shopping. Olivia? Stella's voice was barely audible. Mr. Hayes' friend, Mrs. Jenkins replied naturally. A very elegant young lady. They've been having lunch together all week. Leo looked at Stella with sad eyes. I don't want to go shopping with her. I want to stay here with you. Dad's serious again since we haven't been coming. Heartbroken but maintaining a smile for the child, Stella stroked his hair. You have to be a good boy, champ. Your dad and grandma will worry if you're not where you're supposed to be. Will you come to my party tomorrow? Leo asked hopefully. Stella exchanged a glance with Mrs. Jenkins, who shook her head slightly. I don't think I can, little one, she replied softly. The restaurant will be very busy. But you promised me, Leo insisted, his lower lip trembling. Sometimes adults can't keep all their promises, Stella explained, feeling tears threaten to fall. But I'll send you a special gift, all right? After they left, Stella sat on one of the stools, finally letting the tears flow. That's how Lily found her minutes later when she arrived to help with breakfast. Stella, what happened? She asked, alarmed. Between sobs, Stella told her about Leo's visit and the mysterious Olivia. You see, I was right. He's moved on. Probably someone from his social class, elegant and sophisticated. Not a simple waitress up to her neck in debt. This isn't staying like this, Lily declared with determination. I'm going to talk to him and… No, Stella exclaimed. Promise me you won't do anything. It's humiliating enough. That afternoon, while serving tables, Stella received a call that made her day even worse. The bank had once again rejected her loan application to refinance the debt with Simon. With Lily giving up her internship in Madrid to help her, the guilt was unbearable. "We can't go on like this," Lily said when they closed that night. "We need to make difficult decisions." "I know," Stella replied, looking at the freshly painted walls, the new furniture, everything Ethan had helped build. "I think it's time to sell." "Sell? But it's Mom's legacy." "A legacy that's sinking us, Lily," Stella responded sadly. "With what we get, we can pay Simon, send you to Madrid, and maybe start over in another city." The next day, as she placed the "for sale" sign in the restaurant window, Stella felt a part of her die. The memories of her mother, Leo's laughter, the moments with Ethan. Everything would be left behind. Part 7. A father's realization and a mother's confession. At the Hayes mansion, the garden was decorated with balloons and streamers for Leo's birthday party. The boy, however, was sitting in a corner, ignoring the other children playing. "Why the long face, champ? It's your special day," Ethan said, approaching his son. "I want to go to the restaurant," Leo responded without looking at him. "Leo, we've talked about this. Now we have other places to go," Ethan explained with forced patience. "I don't like those places. I don't like Olivia. I want to see Stella." Eleanor approached, followed by a young woman with perfect hair and expensive clothes. "Leo, look who brought you a special gift." "Hello, Leo," Olivia greeted with a practiced smile. "Happy birthday." Leo barely looked at her before turning to his father. "She doesn't make cheese laugh." "Leo, don't be rude," Eleanor reprimanded him. "It's fine," Olivia intervened with false sweetness. "Children need time to adjust. Why don't you open my gift?" Ethan watched the scene with growing discomfort. In the past few nights, he had barely slept, tossing and turning, thinking about Simon's words. What if he was right? What if Stella had just used him to improve the restaurant? But then he remembered her sincere smile, the way she treated Leo, how she had protected the child without a second thought. The party continued mechanically. Leo blew out the candles without enthusiasm, opened gifts without joy, and when the other children played, he remained aloof with his stuffed mouse. As she cut the cake, Eleanor approached Ethan. "It's normal for him to be like this. Children get attached easily. He'll soon forget about that waitress." "Her name is Stella," Ethan corrected automatically. "Whatever," Eleanor responded with disdain. "The important thing is that you're doing the right thing. Olivia is perfect for you, from a good family, educated, a club member. Sarah would have approved." Ethan was about to respond when Leo began to cough violently. His small face was red and sweaty. "Leo!" Ethan shouted, running towards him. Touching him, he felt his skin burning. "He's burning up. It must be just a cold," Eleanor commented. "No, something's wrong," Ethan insisted, lifting his son into his arms. "I'm taking him to the hospital." On the way, Leo worsened. In his feverish delirium, he repeatedly called out for Stella. "I want Stella, Dad. She knows how to make it not hurt." At the hospital, doctors diagnosed a severe respiratory infection. "He'll need to stay tonight," the doctor explained. "Your son has very low defenses," as if he's been under a lot of stress. While Leo finally slept, sedated by the medication, Ethan sat beside him, holding his little hand. He had been an idiot. Out of pride, out of unfounded doubts, he had pushed away the only person who had brought joy into their lives in years. With determination, he pulled out his phone and called his assistant. "I need you to investigate everything about Simon Blackwood. His businesses, his loans, everything. And I also need Stella Willow's personal address." Part 8. A new kind of promise. The next morning, while packing her belongings into small boxes, Stella heard knocks at her apartment door. "It must be about the restaurant ad," she commented to Lily. Opening it, she found herself face to face with Ethan Hayes. "What are you doing here?" she asked, too surprised to be polite. "We need to talk," he replied, his face showing clear signs of tiredness. "Please." Before she could answer, Ethan's phone rang. His expression changed when he saw the screen. "It's the hospital," he murmured, answering quickly. After a brief conversation, he looked at Stella urgently. "It's Leo. He has complications from the fever. I have to go to the hospital right now." "Go," Stella said without hesitation. "The child needs you. Come with me," Ethan pleaded, taking her hand. "He needs you too." St. Thomas Hospital had that distinctive disinfectant smell Stella knew well from her mother's last days. She followed Ethan through the white corridors, her heart pounding, worried about Leo. "What exactly does he have?" she asked as they waited for the elevator. "It started as a fever during his birthday party," Ethan explained, his voice tired. "Doctors say it's a severe respiratory infection that complicated. His defenses are very low." When they entered the room, Leo was sleeping, connected to monitors and with an 4 in his small arm. Stella felt a lump in her throat seeing him like that. "My little one," she whispered, approaching the bed. As if he had heard her voice, Leo slowly opened his eyes. Seeing her, a weak smile appeared on his face. "You came?" he murmured. "Of course, champ," she replied, gently taking his hand. "How do you feel?" "It hurts here," Leo said, pointing to his chest. "But not so much now that you're here." Stella looked at Ethan, who watched the scene from the foot of the bed with an indecipherable expression. "Leo," the doctor said, entering. "I see you're awake and you have visitors." While the doctor checked on the child, Ethan took Stella to the hallway. "Thank you for coming," he said sincerely. "I know I don't deserve it after how I behaved." "I didn't come for you," she replied firmly. "I came for Leo." "I know, and that says a lot about you," Ethan admitted. "After I saw you with Leo today, I realized I made a terrible mistake by pulling away without hearing your side." "My side? Of what?" Stella asked, crossing her arms. "Of what Simon said at the festival," Ethan explained. "About you two. The loan. Everything." Stella sighed deeply. "There's not much to tell. My mother was dying. We needed money for treatments. Simon was the only one offering a loan without paperwork. But it had a condition. He wanted to marry me." "Your mother accepted that?" Ethan asked, horrified. "Of course not," Stella exclaimed. "She never knew. She signed papers that Simon presented as a simple loan. It wasn't until after her death that he showed up with a modified agreement, where I supposedly agreed to marry him as part of the deal." "And you refused?" Ethan concluded. "Of course I refused," Stella confirmed. "I'd rather lose the restaurant 100 times than marry someone like him. But since then, he's been raising the interest, threatening to take everything from us." At that moment, Eleanor appeared down the hallway, closely followed by Olivia. Seeing Stella, Eleanor's expression hardened. "What is she doing here?" she asked with disdain. "I invited her," Ethan responded firmly. "Leo needs her." "He needs her, please, Ethan. She's just a waitress," Eleanor retorted. "Olivia has been here all night, worried about Leo." "Mr. Hayes," the doctor interrupted, coming out of the room. "Your son is asking for Miss Willow." Olivia stepped forward. "I'll go. He needs to get used to me." "Eleanor," Ethan said with an authority that surprised everyone. "Stella will go. She's the one he wants to see." "Ethan," Eleanor protested. "What would Sarah say if she saw you like this?" "Sarah would want our son to be happy," Ethan replied, looking directly at his mother-in-law. "And since Stella came into our lives, Leo has been happier than he has been in years. So have I." Stella re-entered the room, leaving the others in the hallway. She sat beside Leo and told him stories until the child fell asleep again, this time with a peaceful expression. When she came out, she found Ethan alone in the waiting room. "Where are Eleanor and Olivia?" she asked. "They left," he replied simply. "I told them I needed time to think." "Ethan, I don't want to be the cause of problems in your family." "You're not," he assured her. "The problems were already there. I've been hiding behind a promise for so long that I forgot how to live." Stella sat beside him, emotionally and physically exhausted. "We'll talk about this when Leo is better." Right now, his health is what matters. There's something else you should know, Ethan said. I've been investigating Simon Blackwood. This isn't the first time he's done this. He has a pattern of predatory loans throughout the area, especially targeting struggling family businesses. I know, but without proof. I have the proof, Ethan interrupted. My legal team has found at least 20 similar cases. Altered documents, illegal interest, threats. I've already filed a formal complaint. Stella looked at him in disbelief. You did that for me? I did it because it's the right thing to do, he responded. And yes, I also did it for you. A nurse approached to inform them that Leo had woken up and was asking for both of them. Upon entering the room, they found him sitting up in bed, looking better. Dad, Stella, he exclaimed with more energy. Are you two together again? Ethan and Stella exchanged a glance. We're here with you, Ethan replied, avoiding the direct question. Can we be a family now? Leo insisted with a child's innocence. From the doorway, Eleanor watched the scene. She had returned after reflecting on Ethan's words. Seeing her grandson smile for the first time in days, something softened in her heart. Sarah always said that the greatest proof of love is to see the one you love happy, she said, entering the room. And it's clear that you two make Leo happy. Eleanor, Ethan began, surprised by her change of attitude. I'm not saying I completely approve, she continued. But Sarah would have wanted you to move on, to find happiness again. That night, as Leo slept more peacefully, Ethan and Stella sat in the hospital cafeteria. There's something else I need to tell you, Ethan began. I bought the restaurant. What? Stella almost spat out her coffee. When? How? 3 days ago when I saw the for sale sign, he explained. But it's not what you think. I didn't do it to control you or to force you into anything. Then why? She asked, trying to process the news. Ethan pulled some papers from his briefcase and slid them towards her. These are the property documents. They're in your name. Stella looked at the papers, stunned. I don't understand. It's an investment in your future, Ethan explained. In the plans you had before life forced you to postpone them. The restaurant will include an educational center where you can finally teach, while keeping your mother's legacy alive. I can't accept something like this, Stella murmured, overwhelmed by the gesture. You can and you should, Ethan insisted, with one condition, that you manage it however you see fit without any obligation to me. Stella looked him in the eyes, seeing a sincerity she couldn't deny. After a long silence, she made a decision. I accept your business proposal, she finally said. But I have a counter-proposal personally. I'm listening. I accept the business partnership, but I also offer a personal partnership, she said in a firm but soft voice. On equal terms, without promises we can't keep, only the commitment to try day by day. Ethan smiled, feeling years of pain and loneliness begin to fade. It's the best counter-proposal I've ever received. As they sealed their agreement with a long-postponed kiss, both knew that what began with a child's laughter had evolved into something much deeper, something that neither Simon's lies, nor Eleanor's doubts, nor their own fears could destroy. Because sometimes life offers second chances in the most unexpected places. And sometimes, a millionaire who swore never to love again finds his heart renewed by seeing a waitress make his son laugh like no one else could. Part 9. The Grand Reopening and a New Family Chapter. A year had passed since that day at the hospital. The afternoon sun bathed the renovated facade of the Willow Tree Diner, as the restaurant was now called, with golden light. The tables on the terrace were filled with people from the neighborhood who had come to celebrate the grand reopening. Stella, dressed in a simple turquoise blue dress that matched the walls, moved between the tables, greeting everyone. In one corner, Lily managed the counter, fresh from her internship in Madrid, where she had shone as everyone expected. Have you seen Leo? Stella asked Robert, who was serving fresh lemonade to the guests. He was with his dad in the new classroom, the man replied with a knowing smile. The classroom was Stella's pride, a bright space annexed to the restaurant, where in the afternoons she gave free classes to neighborhood children. Her dream of being a teacher had finally come true, without having to abandon her mother's legacy. When she entered the classroom, she found Ethan and Leo bent over a large banner they claimed to have been preparing for days as a special surprise. "Don't look," Leo exclaimed, now a nearly 7-year-old boy, full of energy and smiles. "It's not ready yet. You covered my eyes, I promise," Stella said, laughing as she approached them. "Too late to hide it," Ethan responded, giving her a quick kiss. But the real surprise comes after. The past year had brought many changes. Simon Blackwood faced fraud charges thanks to the evidence presented by Ethan. The restaurant's old debt had been cancelled as part of the legal agreement. Eleanor had softened her attitude towards Stella, especially seeing how happy Leo was, although family dinners still had their awkward moments. Most surprisingly, Ethan had moved his offices to a space above the restaurant, allowing him to be close to his family while managing his company, which now focused on community development projects instead of luxury resorts. "We have to go out now," Leo insisted, pulling Stella by the hand. "Everyone's waiting." In the center of the restaurant, neighbors, regular customers, friends, and family had gathered. Lily tapped her glass to get everyone's attention. "Welcome to the grand reopening of the Willow Tree Diner and Leo's Kitchen," she announced with enthusiasm. "My sister has worked very hard to make this place not just a restaurant, but a true home for the community." A round of applause for Stella. Amidst cheers and applause, Stella took the microphone, visibly moved. "Thank you all for coming today. This place exists thanks to each of you who believed in us when it seemed impossible to keep going. Special thanks to my sister Lily, who sacrificed so much to support me, and to Ethan, who showed us that miracles exist when you least expect them." She looked to where Ethan watched her with pride, Leo beside him, holding the banner, which could now be clearly read, "We love you, Stella." As the celebrations continued and night began to fall, Ethan led Stella and Leo to the new rooftop terrace of the building. From there, they could see the entire neighborhood illuminated by the sunset lights. "I have something important to tell you," Ethan announced, kneeling in front of Stella. But instead of a ring, he pulled out a key. "A key?" she asked, confused. "The key to our home," he explained. "I don't want to give you a ring that symbolizes possession. I want to give you something that represents our future together. Inequality, building little by little." Leo then approached, holding a handmade sign that read in crooked but heartfelt letters, "Will you be my mom?" Stella felt tears stream down her cheeks as she hugged Leo. "Nothing would make me happier than to be your mom, my beautiful boy." Looking at Ethan, she took the key and then his hand. "And nothing would make me happier than to build that home with you, day by day, without rushing but without stopping." The three embraced, as the sun finally set on the horizon. Leo pointed to the sky where the first star of the night shone brightly. "Look, that's Mom Sarah watching over us from above," he said with the wisdom only children possess. Ethan and Stella exchanged a knowing glance, recognizing the truth in the little one's words. Love doesn't replace what's lost. It simply creates space for more love. And in that sunset, on the rooftop of a restaurant that had seen tears and laughter, a millionaire who had sworn never to love again and a waitress who had sacrificed her dreams for others found together the courage to start anew. As Stella discreetly rested a hand on her belly, where the most recent proof of that new beginning was growing, she knew that life sometimes closes doors only to open windows, or in her case, to open the door of a small kitchen where a child had smiled for the first time in a long time. What do you think of this version? Does it capture all the elements you were looking for? Let me know your thoughts.